Hi class, I'm Jessica Carey. I will be covering a What Would You Do topic from Chapter 3, Cyber Attacks and Cybersecurity. I selected scenario number 2 to analyze. This is the exact question from the textbook, which I'll be summarizing later on in this presentation. It appears that someone is using your firm's corporate directory, which includes job titles, email addresses, and phone numbers to contact senior managers and directors via text message. The text message requests that the recipient clicks on a URL, which leads to a website that looks as if it were designed by your human resources organization. Once at the phony website, the employees are asked to enter their bank routing number and account number to be used for electronic deposits of their annual bonus check. You are a member of the IT security group for the firm. What can you do? Before we get started, I would like to briefly cover some terminology. The fraudulent text discussed in this scenario is known as a form of phishing. Phishing is the act of fraudulently using digital messaging to try and get the recipient to reveal personal data. In a phishing scam, a con artist sends a legitimate-looking email or text message urging a recipient to take action to avoid a negative consequence or to receive a reward. The action may involve clicking on a website link or opening an attachment. It then takes consumers to a counterfeit website designed to trick them into divulging personal data or to download malware onto their computers. This What Would You Do case is about smishing, which is a phishing scam carried out via text message or SMS message, but there's a number of types of phishing. There's spear phishing, vishing, email phishing, HTTPS phishing, farming, pop-up, evil twin phishing, watering hole phishing, whaling, clone phishing, deceptive phishing, smishing, and domain spoofing. To address this issue, we'll be applying the 5-point decision-making process as outlined in the text. The first step is to develop a problem statement. Don't make assumptions, verify facts. The second is to identify alternatives, leveraging the help from others. The third is to choose those alternatives, making sure that these are both defensible if needed and that the impacts on others have been considered. Point 4 would be to implement the decision, so moving it from a plan to an action. And point 5 would be to evaluate the results. Was it a poor alternative selected? Did implementation fail? Was it a success? So this was the problem statement I developed for this particular What Would You Do scenario. The senior managers and directors of our firm are being targeted by a smishing scam. The scammers are looking to gain access to their personal banking information to steal money and possibly open new accounts or lines of credit. The smishing scam is asking them to follow a link to a website designed to look like our company's HR site, where they are prompted to enter their bank account number and routing number for the deposit of their annual bonuses. These are the alternatives I've developed for this issue. The first would be ignore the issues altogether as they only affect a small number of employees. The second alternative would be to draft an email to communicate the phishing scam to increase visibility and vigilance around the issue from all employees. Third would be host a cybersecurity training that focuses on phishing with a refresher classes as needed. Fourth would be increase the frequency of security audits and add focus on databases with sensitive personal information. Fifth would be to develop a procedure for reporting phishing scams with clear directions on the point of contact. When applying the information from the textbook on the decision-making process, it becomes pretty clear that the defendable options that I consider to have a positive impact on others are communicate that there has been an issue with scamming, train employees on the issue and how to avoid falling victim to it, develop a new, more aggressive security audit schedule, and develop a reporting procedure. This is a sample of the kind of email communication I would send out regarding the smishing scam, targeting the managers and directors. I wouldn't want to name anyone specifically, so I left that intentionally vague on who the targets have been, but this is a general idea of where I would go with that communication. I think training is often most successful in person and when there are real-world examples and visuals to use, not just theoretical discussions. Some topics I would be sure to cover with these examples in a training would be that users need to look for information about the sender. So if you look in both of these examples, the email address is just a little bit off. The phone number is not a company phone number. Another thing I would point out is that real company websites are secured, so the HTTP would be an HTTPS, and both of these have an HTTP, which is a non-secure internet protocol. The third thing I would point out that they look at is the website itself. Does the URL actually make sense, and is it a real URL? I think most people are comfortable with the internet enough that they can tell the difference between a true company website and a fraudulent website. Security audits are common practices for IT teams. There are some bare minimum items that I would suggest be included in an audit checklist. If a section of the audit fails, I would increase the frequency of the audits until it no longer fails. The frequency of the audits would honestly need to be tailored to the type of company and its security threats. If you think of a bank versus a bakery, they don't have the same security factors that impact them. But some items I would cover would be, what are the security measures the provider of the cloud storage are bringing to the table, and do they meet the needs of the company? Who has access to company information and review the control procedures? Same thing with the telecommunications processes. What are the controls in place there? Verify patching has been done appropriately and in a timely manner. And then just check on the data loss prevention policies and make sure that all of the needs lined out in those policies are being met. In addition to that, there are some basic procedures I would also want to establish for reporting these types of phishing scams. They would be establish a face-to-face contact person for people in the office who they can go to if they have a concern that there may be a phishing scam. A secondary thing would be to share a hotline number for people who need to report issues either off hours or who are working off-site. I mean, in the world post-COVID, we have a lot of off-site employees that could be impacted by something like this. And third, establish a contact person within HR if you miss the signs of a phishing scam and fall prey to one of those fraudulent websites. You would want to have someone within HR that you know you can go to and talk to about what the next steps are going to be for, solidifying your information is safe on the company's end. So it's not really possible to know the outcome of my selective alternatives as of right now, but some methods I would use to gauge their efficacy would be quizzes after the training. I like interactive quizzes. I think they're more effective. My personal favorite is to create a Jeopardy style game on a PowerPoint and have little small prizes. Obviously, this only works with smaller groups of people in the training sessions, but anything that keeps the audience engaged in the training and then the testing at the end will be really beneficial. Secondary, I think tracking the audits and how many areas they failed in and when they failed can really give an indication on whether the plans are being implemented or if there's a major procedural change that needs to happen to prevent recurrent failures. And then sending out an annual poll via email to all employees with like 5 or less questions, just to make sure that you have a gauge on the general employee's understanding of what to do in some of these situations. And it doesn't have to be specifically related to IT, it could be other departments, but I think a lot of people forget what the ticketing process is and will just go down and try and find someone in an IT lab, and that doesn't really work, and it's not conducive for IT members getting their work done. So just make sure that people know what the processes are and who to contact, and that can just be a quick little poll. So that's all I have for you guys. Hopefully this was clear, and if you have any questions, please write to me in the discussion board. I would be happy to answer them. Thanks for your time.